Okay, so I was right. I just had to say that first. I was right. And this isn't like some like posting thing. Like quite literally, if you saw my videos before now, if you saw the everything is connected video, you saw the Abby video. I kind of called this, and so we're gonna get into this. There's so much that we got shown. There's so many things that I saw just off rip. This is what we're gathering from this, honestly. Wuthering Waves Special Records, Space Trek Collective, Star Torch Academy. All right, let's just go frame by frame, and we'll discuss what we're seeing here. So you'll notice at the very beginning, star motifs, right? Star motifs. And then this right here, we're gonna come back to this, but the thing that's very interesting, it looks kind of like, it's a tad bit, it looks like an eye. It looks kind of like an eye right here, right? Now we're gonna listen to what's being said. Past sparks pierce the void and illuminate Lahai Roi. Now this area right here kind of looks a little bit like a mix between hieroglyphics and like data, or like something like a computer chip, right? This thing right here is considered the Lahai Roi reactor, right? So yeah, just I don't want to go too fast, but yeah, Lahai Roi reactor drive. All right. So we have that bit of information. And what's being said, past sparks pierce the void and illuminate Lahai Roi. This kind of reminds me of what we learned in 1.0 when we went to the CSC facility with Alto and Encore, and they were basically kind of explaining, we saw that older gentleman, it was a hologram, and the older gentleman was kind of telling us like, hey, you know, something about the space lady, the unknown goddess. And he was saying like, you're our past, but you're also our future. And he was like, you know, future being hailing from our past, please save us, right? And so what I find interesting, it says past sparks pierce the void and illuminate Lahai Roi. So it's this idea of like something from the past, a past spark is illuminating the future. That's the idea here. Something from the past being used to illuminate the future. You're going to see a really big trend with this though. It's essentially this, it really connects the whole game. It connects all the themes that we've seen throughout the entire game. Let's continue. Now this part right here. So first off, what do we see? Let's talk about what we see, and then let's talk about what is beyond what we see. What we initially see seems to be like a robot, right? Like some sort of robotic suit or something. And it says the Slumbering Exostrider, Roya Frostlands, right? Slumbering Exostrider, Roya Frostlands. Yeah, this looks really cool. But what's being said, it says where the seed of civilization is buried. So past sparks pierce the void and illuminate Lahai Roi, where the seed of civilization is buried. All right, listen up, y'all. I've been wanting to talk about this. Sorry for the flashbang. I've been wanting to talk about this for a little bit now, ever since 2.8. A lot of people were saying 2.8 doesn't really have any big lore drops. It has some insane lore drops. We just have not, it might not have been as apparent to certain people. What they said right there, where the seed of civilization is buried. I have a theory about the cassette tapes. It's called the cassette tape theory, right? So the terminal that Chisa has, that terminal, and specifically the cassette tape inside of it. We learned from 2.7 that Galbrunna told us we are essentially able to, or they are able to record frequencies with those cassette tapes, right? They're able to record frequencies. So what does that mean to you, you might ask? I believe that they figured out a way to, and like I said, Chisa also told us, they figured out a way to preserve frequencies in a way that the limit won't be able to mess them up, basically. That's the idea here. Those cassette tapes are able to preserve, as she said, essentially a person's existence, you know, like their essence. And so they figured out a way to preserve things beyond the limit's grasps, right? Because the thing about it is, I always thought about this was very interesting. I was like, you know, why don't people just like jump in a Sonoro when the limit happens? Like if they're in the Sonoro, then the limit can't hurt them, right? No, because Sonoros can be corrupted by, well, they can be corrupted basically. And so the lament would still be able to get to you. However, if these cassette tapes are able to do that, that's huge. The reason why is because what if there's somebody at the academy who's able to essentially live, I want to say forever, but I mean, they're basically able to survive. They essentially like their own personal lament bunker where they can get those tapes, and then as a result of having their stuff stored on the tape, after the lament's over, they can come back. Like they're now able to do that. And it actually gets a little bit deeper than that as we continue. Yep. Civilization is buried. The seed of civilization is buried. So it says Lahai Roi, right? It path sparks illuminate, pierce the void and illuminate Lahai Roi, where the seed of civilization is buried. What is the seed of civilization? I think this might mean that Lahai Roi might, in fact, be a place. Lahai Roi might be a place where they are essentially trying to create, like, take all the, like, those smartest minds and all this stuff, right? And people with, like, unique abilities and things. And maybe they're actually trying to create something along the lines of a, how do I describe this? Kind of like a time capsule of sorts. The seed of civilization is buried, right? They're able to essentially take these cassette tapes and use them to preserve certain people's essence, to make sure that those brilliant minds aren't being affected by the lament, and they don't have to essentially, as we learned, reset every single time a lament happens, because that's essentially what happened. And we learned about that with Xing Liao's quest, where like every time a lament hit, everything reset, time, like people's understanding of things reset. So this time they're just like, no, we're going to figure out a way to preserve beyond the lament. And this is the seed of civilization, because we're essentially going to be able to survive this thing and kind of rebirth civilization from these smart minds that were able to survive. So now the next part of this, right? This is actually really interesting, and this is gonna get into Rover. Is buried, ready to thrive. Now this clip right here, right? What we see right here. And by the way, yeah, I don't want to jump over this. I can't say exactly what this is just yet. I'm not gonna lie. I can't say what this is exactly. I see that it has like these little circular patterns that we've seen that kind of, to me, represent kind of like orbital patterns, right? But it's a little bit too soon. We see the sun motif right here. This looks kind of like a moon. So yeah, it feels like this is like, you know, some orbital patterns. We did talk about that in the other two lore videos that I did put out. But yeah, so two of the most recent ones specifically. I keep talking about them because they are really important. So next up, Star Trek Collective Starward Riseway. You know, when I look at this right here, it to me kind of looks like a spaceship launch pad a little bit. Like it could be like a elevator, but it kind of looks like, you know, the things where spaceships are usually held and there's like little circles. But also, if you see at the top, this looks like the things from Mount Firmament, those rings, which were kind of like there from when Jue came down in the return pod, which is very interesting actually, that return pod language with what we're going to see in a second. Into space we gaze, bound by our desire to return. So listen, I did Dreaming Deep, everybody. And in Dreaming Deep, when you kind of put the pieces together, it seems like the people of Soul 3 came from somewhere else. Like the first settlers of Soul 3 came from somewhere else. And when you combine it with Punishing Gray Raven lore, which you don't have to, but I'm just saying if you did, in that game, apparently like they were researching entropy, which is basically like the universe or the solar system having what's considered heat death, like the sun, I guess, like either explodes or it's just like it's too hot and nobody can survive or something like that. And so they were like trying to look into other universes. And so they were saying that like this could possibly be, there's this prevailing theory that this could be something similar in Wuthering Waves, right? So, but the point is, bound by our desire to return. I said in the last video, in the past video, that they were trying to go to the stars. They were trying to get to the stars. That was their goal. And right here, you see it. This place right here looks kind of like a, sort of like a space station a little bit. Not really certain. I don't think this is actually in space. They're trying to get there, but I think it just mimics kind of like a, the deck of a spaceship or something like that. We see this little thing in the middle as well with the little, once again, those rings, and then a star up there, the scene being like the focal point. Sever the chains of yesterday. Now that's actually an interesting line. First thing I want to say is this little area right here is basically, this is what we can see through the rift in Hanami City. This right here is what we can see through the rift. This is like the little front area. And then you can see like, you know, a couple different areas right here that we will see throughout this trailer. We'll see. And let's see. I think that this line, we shall sever the chains of yesterday. This is the really interesting thing. And shout out to Noel for this. What if this is referencing what Rover did? Because based on what we learned in 2.8, Rover was in Lahai Roi 20 years ago, and 20 years ago was also around the time where Rover essentially decided to, you know, lose their memories and restart, essentially, right? What if that's a thing in this place where with the cassette tape theory, when you combine the cassette tape theory with this, Rover came here, found out about cassette tape theory, preserved their essence or whatever, but you also maybe like when you preserve your essence, you have to lose your memories in the process. But they have a backup stored and you can choose to get your memory back if you want to. And so this is why Rover has these little pieces of themselves that they can, you know, remind themselves, these little bits and pieces, but it's a choice. You don't have to do it. And so maybe there's something there around where Rover's memory, maybe we get our memories back in Lahai Roi, right? Maybe we find the backup drive with all our memories, but you do have the choice to sever the chains of yesterday if you want to. So yeah, this is the Star Trek Collective Star Torch Academy. We shall disperse the mists of tomorrow. I'm a little bit sus of this. Like, why is like a water drop? I don't know. I don't know. It could be nothing, but I'm just a little sus of the water drop. Yep. Disperse the mists of tomorrow, raising up high the sun that will soon burn. Now, I want to explain this. This is the Void Watchtower, which I find interesting. I wonder if this has to do with like the Eye of Asteria, the Eye of Ananka, or Ananke, which is essentially the towers that they use to surveil the Lament in Septimont and Black Shores, respectively. Maybe that's what this is. But regardless, the line that they say, raise it up high, the sun that will soon burn. Then right after it says, seek courage from the Firebringer. Right? I think these two statements are connected. So this line is actually appearing to be something like a Prometheus reference. Prometheus is the Greek god who was said to have brought fire to humanity, right? And so if that holds true, seek courage from the Firebringer could mean that, I think this is where it gets tied back into the beginning of the game and the whole concept, we saw this again in the finale, of saving light. All right. So if that is true, it's basically saying there is somebody who brought fire to humanity, right? And we're saying seek courage from the Firebringer. I think that's someone who brought fire, i.e. what I would call light, because this is, like I said, saving light from the beginning of the game. So that person brought light to the people of Soul 3. And what is light? Light is hope. And so seek courage from the Firebringer to rekindle that torch. And you can see right here, tactical proving grounds, So yeah, I guess it's a place where they like spar. This place is just X-Men Academy. I love it. And then we see simulator cockpit. We are sun chasers, and you know, we get to see like a little bit of a glimpse of some of the characters. We are sun chasers. We are the shepherds of fire. I think there's a double entendre, sun chasers, because they are trying to chase the sun. They're trying to get out into space while also being the fact that, you know, they're sun chasers because they are chasing the person who brought them light. And they're the shepherds of fire because they're essentially being good stewards of what was given. That hope that was given by, who I believe, Rover from the past, right? Rover brought light, and so this is what we're seeing right now. And so once again, we have the same thing that we saw. You'll see it a second from the very beginning of this, which was like right here. But we're seeing it again right here. And this looks very much like the kind of like the Star Crest-esque symbol with tacit marks and stuff. You can see it kind of converging. And this reminds me a lot of the very beginning of the game when Rover, right? When Rover decided to, you know, drop, well, the unknown goddess sent Rover. This looks very similar to the beginning of the game. Bam. Clip it and ship it, everybody. Clip it and ship it. I'm excited for Lahai Roi. Hopefully you are as well. Share this video with somebody who might be curious about this and wondering, what does all this mean? Just tell them, hey, life's got you. He explained it all in his video. And yeah, if you enjoyed this, I'm posting another video right now where I explain it. Go check that out.
Hey, you. Do the thing.